And we're here sitting on bond to hear the post-conviction relief motion that Ms. Croslin has filed in St. Johns County case number for the digital court reporters, case number CFM 10-0141, and the Putnam County case numbers CF10 138, 139, 140, 141, 142, 251, and 252. Mr. Franks, is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Ms. Carmody, is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You ready to call your first witness, or did you wish to make some opening statements?
Your Honor, I just need to address a few housekeeping matters before I proceed.
All right.
First of all, thank you both for hearing it jointly. Secondly, we're not going to go forward on counts 3 and 4 of the motions.
Okay.
We're going to be going forward as counts 1 and 2.
Round 1 and 2?
Correct.
Okay.
And as to the Putnam cases, I'm withdrawing the motion as to case number 2010, 138, 139, and 141.
All right.
Other than that, I'm ready to proceed.
Okay. Who's going to be your first witness?
Ms. Croslin.
Ms. Croslin, would you come up, please? If you would come up here, please, and stand by this chair. All right. How many witnesses do you have other than the defendant?
I only have one more, sir.
Okay. Ms. Croslin, would you stand there, please, and raise your right hand? Okay, Madam Clerk?
You solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes, ma'am. Thank
You
you.
have a seat, and if you need to address that microphone, feel free to do so. Ms. Martin, who's your other witness?
Mr. Croslin, Ms. Croslin.
Ms. Croslin, would you come up, please, present? And how many witnesses does the state have? Okay, Ms. Field, would you come up to the bench, please? Could you both raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. Gentlemen, will you make the hand? There will procedures for the vote that's going to require you to be outside the courtroom while testimony is being taken, and you're not to discuss your testimony with any other witness. Do you understand that? Yes, sir. Okay, do you have any questions about that? Okay, if you both, there's 2 waiting rooms out there. You may both go out there and have a seat. Thanks.
Where do you want me?
Whatever you wish to do. Okay. If you feel more comfortable up here at the bench, ask a question, or if you'd rather do it from the podium, that's fine. Or to the table if you feel more comfortable.
All right, I'm fine here.
Okay. The only thing we ask you to do, if you don't mind, is ask the jail to move that microphone so the video court reporter can pick it up.
All right.
All right. We're ready.
All right. Please state your name for the record.
Misty Croslin,
And how old are you?
24,
And what is your education level?
probably 3.1,
What grade in school did you finish?
7th grade,
Okay. And do you know what your reading level is?
3.1,
What does that mean?
3rd grade.
3rd grade reading level. Okay. Prior to being incarcerated, did you work anywhere?
I was a hostess.
Do you know Attorney Robert Fields?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know him?
He represented me
When did you first meet him?
in 2009 when my stepdad went missing.
Excuse me?
In 2009 when my stepdad went missing.
Ms. Croslin, would you do me a favor and would you move that chair a little bit closer to the microphone? Thank you.
And how old were you at that time?
18.
Okay. Who first introduced him to you?
My sister-in-law's mother.
And did Mr. Fields charge you a fee to represent you in that matter?
Yeah, ma'am.
Did he ever tell you why that he represented you in that matter for free?
He never told me, but he told my family that for publicity.
That what?
For publicity.
Objection to hearsay, Your Honor, and relevancy.
Objection sustained. Rephrase the question, please, if you would.
How many times did you meet with him concerning that case, concerning the disappearance of your stepdaughter?
When I was locked up? Or how many times?
Prior to that?
A lot. I can't even account how many times.
Okay. After you got arrested for these drug trafficking offenses that we're here for today in 2010, how many times did you meet with him regarding that?
At least 10.
Okay. Did you ever meet with him with law enforcement?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times approximately?
Probably like 4 or 5.
After he represented you, did he ever allow you to meet with law enforcement without him being present?
Yes, ma'am.
And how many times did that happen?
I can't say exact, but it was a lot.
In January 2010, you were arrested for drug trafficking, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did he represent you in those cases also?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have 8 separate cases spanning both Putnam and St. Johns County?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he charge anything to represent you in those cases?
No, ma'am.
Did he tell you why he didn't charge anything to represent you?
No, ma'am.
Objection.
Okay.
Mr. Frank's a little late for the objection.
I tried. It's luck.
How many times did he meet with you about the drug trafficking cases?
Maybe 3 times.
Did he ever go over your discovery with you?
No, ma'am.
Do you know what discovery is?
Well, now I do, then I didn't.
Discovery would be police reports, surveillance videos, witness statements, etc., things like that in your cases, any evidence the state would have had against you. Did he go over those things with you?
No, ma'am.
Did he ever give you copies of any of the arrest reports of the surveillance videos or the transcripts of the surveillance, anything like that?
No, ma'am.
So what was your conversation about these drug trafficking cases when he met with you?
He pretty much just told me not to worry, that everything was going to be okay, and that if I pled no contest, that I'd get 6 years as a legal offender.
Did you believe him?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he at any time ever tell you, like, the maximum sentence, how much that the judge could possibly give you in both St. Johns and Putnam County for all those cases?
He never told me that. He only told me that the charge carried up to 25 years. He never explained to me that this is what the judge had to give to me, or he never explained any of that to me.
Did he ever tell you that 25 years was what's called a minimum mandatory?
No, ma'am.
Did you even know what that was?
No, ma'am.
Because during your pleas, I reviewed the transcripts for both St. Johns and Putnam County, and during the plea transcripts for both of those cases, or not both of the cases, all 8 of the cases, both Judge Berger in St. Johns County and both Judge LaRue in Putnam County both break down the charges, and they both tell you on the record that there are minimum mandatory sentences attached to every single one of your charges. In some cases there are 25 years, in some cases there are 15, in some cases there are 3 years. And they told you all of that on the record, and on the record you acknowledged that you understood that. What did you think that meant?
I just thought that's as much as I could give. Like, I didn't know that's what they had to give to me.
So you thought that was the maximum that you could get?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you entered a plea, what was your understanding that you would get?
6 years.
And who told you that?
My attorney, Robert Bill.
And also, in both plea transcripts, the judges both asked you if you were promised anything in exchange for your plea. And you said no, that you weren't. Why didn't you speak up at that time and say, Mr. Fields promised you 6 years?
Because he didn't technically say, I promise you, so when they said the word promise, that's when I didn't think that it was a promise. Like, I didn't understand that him just telling me, that everything's going to be okay, you're going to get 6 years. He didn't say, I promise you. He said, don't worry about it, you're going to get 6 years. I didn't understand that.
Did he ever at any time tell you that there was a possibility that you'd get more than that?
No, he never told me. He just told me not to worry about anything.
If you had known that you entered a plea and you were going to get 25 years in prison in either Putnam or St. Johns County, would you have done that?
No, ma'am.
What would you have done differently?
I wouldn't put in a plea of no contest. I would try to fight it more.
Nothing further.
Mr. Grant, you may inquire.
Absolutely. So you just said in direct that Mr. Fields didn't promise you a 6-year sentence. So when the judges both asked you about it, you knew it wasn't a promise, correct?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that you and Mr. Fields discussed the possibility of you receiving a youthful offender sentence?
He told me that I was going to receive a youthful offender sentence.
Well, you just said he didn't promise it to you.
He didn't say I promise you, but he told me you're going to get a youthful offender sentence.
Okay. So with the judges, you answered one way because he didn't say I promised you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you're discussing all this with Mr. Fields, you took it as a promise, although he didn't say I promise. I mean, do you understand? You're splitting your words mighty fine, man. Now, you're sentenced in October 8th, 2010, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're sentenced to what you're complaining about today, to the possibilities of the plea that you admit that you were warned about, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you knew from 2 different judges in 2 different cases, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so when you're sentenced to that, why at that point didn't you say anything?
Because I believe whatever he said, I just did whatever he told me to do.
So you didn't have any choice in the matter?
I put all my trust in him. I didn't understand any of it.
Okay. Why didn't you understand any of it?
I've never been in trouble before. I didn't understand any court stuff.
Yet isn't it true since early on in your youth you lived independent of your parents, lived on your own, correct?
Not really lived on my own.
Okay. You certainly had the wherewithal to do these drug crimes you were convicted of. You pled to, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you're really not that naive, are you?
Not naive, no, I'm not saying I'm naive.
Okay. You filed the paperwork that brought you here today, correct?
Yes, sir.
One of the claims is that you did not understand anything at all about the plea and sentencing because you were on prescribed medication.
I didn't understand the mandatory stuff at all. I don't understand none of that.
And why was that? Was it because of the drugs they had you on?
Objection, Your Honor. We're not going forward on that count.
It's a sworn document. You promised that was true at one point.
I'll allow some initial questions, Mr. Haleigh, but I'll read it in if I need to.
Was it because of the drugs, or was
I don't know.
is that not true?
I was on sex medication. I can't tell you what it was. I don't know. I just didn't understand it.
Okay, so when you said it was because of those drugs, that wasn't true. That was a false statement by you.
I was on medication. I don't know if it was from medication or not.
Track my question. You filed the motion, right?
Yes, sir.
And in that motion, you swore that was the reason only that you didn't understand what really happened in court.
It's a possibility. That's the only reason I don't know, sir.
Okay. So was that a true statement or not? I mean, you seem to want to have it both ways again.
It's not both ways. I was on medication and I was not fully aware of everything that's going on.
And is it your testimony you didn't see the videos of you selling drugs?
No, sir.
Never saw them?
Never saw them.
Okay. And is it your testimony that you didn't see any of this discovery?
Never saw none of it.
Okay. What do you understand discovery to be?
It's all the paperwork, the police reports, the pictures of the drugs, everything.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Croslin, why did you enter pleas to these charges? What was your understanding?
I entered plea of no contest because my attorney told me that I would get 6 years in the offender program.
And you were taking medication at the time, prescribed medication, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were those medications?
Prozac and Stroll.
And did they affect your judgment?
I can say it a little bit, yeah.
Nothing further.
Anything else?
Briefly, Your Honor. Yet, at that sentencing, you answered all the questions posed to you in front of the court, correct? You talked about your youth,
Yes, sir.
talked about your dad and mom being drug abusers throughout that youth,
Yes, sir.
being left alone,
Yes, sir.
living with older men.
Yes, sir.
And was all that true?
Yes, that is true.
Okay, so you weren't confused about all that.
I'm not confused about what happened in my life, no.
Okay, fair enough. No further questions, Your Honor.
Anything else?
Nothing further.
Mr. Crosby, you can go ahead. Mr. Marty, who's your next witness, please?
Call Mr. Croslin.
Mr. Crosby, keep up your please, sir. If you would stand by this chair, please, and raise your right hand. Come on, sir. Mr. Crosby, please swear in Mr. Marty, so you can begin your testimony.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Hank Croslin Sr.
And how are you related to Mr. Croslin?
I'm Misty's father.
Where do you reside?
In Palaka.
Who do you reside here with?
My wife Lisa.
And where is she today?
In the hospital.
Did you ever have a chance to talk to Mr. Fields regarding Misty's drug trafficking cases?
We talked with Robert Field several times.
Okay. And what did he tell you that the resolution would be?
Objection is irrelevant, Your Honor. The answer only matters on what the defendant understood, not what he heard. It's also being offered for the truth of the matter.
I'll allow the question.
Yes, sir.
So the
Thank you.
questions are forward.
He had told us not to really worry that she couldn't get no more than 6 years of youth offender because she has never been in trouble before.
Okay. And how many times did he tell you that?
We talked several times. I don't know, 3 or 4 times maybe.
All right. Nothing further.
Mr. France.
So in the sentencing, your daughter described you to be a drug abuser throughout her youth.
She's had some problems.
Sir?
Yes, she's had some problems.
She was describing you.
Me?
Objection,
Yes.
objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
Yes,
I'll allow the question.
I have
How many years?
30 years.
30 years of drug abuse? What kind of drugs?
Okay.
Okay. How did that affect your ability to raise your daughter?
Wasn't very good. I raised her, but had problems.
Okay, what kind of problems?
I just, being right, always paid the rent and had groceries on the table, but maybe wasn't the loving father that I needed to be. I never left my kids. I was always there for my kids, but I had an addiction. I worked 7 days a week most of my life.
Okay. And without also describe, I'll withdraw that. She also described in her sentencing that she dropped out of school in 6th grade.
Pretty much.
Did you see yourself having any responsibility to try to keep her in school?
I work 7 days a week. I get her up in the mornings, tell her to get ready to go to school. I'd leave between 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd get her dressed. She wouldn't go.
Okay. And you left it at that?
I was no, I complained every day. Got to whoop her butt and everything, but it didn't help.
Okay. And what about living with older men?
She never did just up around us. I didn't agree with it, no.
Okay. Now, your testimony here today was that Mr. Fields had guaranteed a resolution.
He told us, this is what he told me, I was not there when she was when she was sentenced in St. Augustine, I was incarcerated, but I had talked to Robert Field several times, and he had told us not to worry, that she couldn't get no more than 6 years, because she's never had a record. She's never been in trouble before. She was a good kid, pretty much.
Isn't it true he told you that was a possibility, that was a strategy that they would try for at sentencing? I
don't think so. I think exactly what he said, because he talked about the youth offender. He said that they would go, the minimum mandatory, they would go after her for that, but they couldn't give her no more than 6 years, because she's never been in trouble before. Misty never had a record.
Isn't it more true that this is your one chance to misremember those conversations ever so slightly to help your daughter now, because you never helped her before?
No, I'm telling the truth. I've helped her. I didn't abandon my kids. I was there. I had a drug addiction, but I worked my ass off, and I did help take care of my kids. We had problems. We jumped from state to state, but I took care of my family. So no, that's not true.
Nothing further.
All right, can you read that?
Yeah, Your Honor.
Hey, Ms. Croslin, thank you very much. May Ms. Croslin be excused?
Yes.
Ms. Croslin, you're free to remain in the courtroom. If you wish, you're free to go back to the... Do you have any other witnesses?
I don't.
State, you have witnesses?
Stay close, Mr. Fields, Your Honor.
All right, you ask Mr. Fields to come in first. Ms. Fields, if you would come up and have a seat, please. Just have a seat. Mr. France, Ms. Fields has already been sworn.
Please introduce yourself to the court.
Well, my name is Robert Fields. I'm an attorney. I think I know the court, and now they know me.
Okay. And what type of attorney, what type of law do you practice?
General practice. I practice criminal law, family, probate, personal injury, things of that nature.
Okay. Criminal?
I did.
Okay. Now, when were you licensed to practice law in the state of Florida?
I think it was 98.
Okay.
Same year I graduated law school.
Okay. And from 98 until the time you met the defendant, could you estimate how many criminal cases you had?
A lot.
A lot. Ballpark number for us?
I couldn't. Well, I mean, how many criminal cases I've handled? It was, when I started taking court appointments. I started doing private cases. It's it's over 100, easily. It's more than that. And I don't want to give too high of a number. I'm under oath, but it's just a lot. And I got the book award in law school, and that's what got me interested. Had a lot of competition, a lot of good friends that were mad at me, but it worked out. I could argue pretty good, and that got me interested.
Interested in criminal law? In criminal law. Great. Okay. Can you please describe how you came to meet Misty Croslin?
Well, I don't know how many years ago this has been. It's been a lot. But I remember a call from a relative, as a grandmother or some kind of grand relative. And I remember meeting Misty Croslin in my office in Palatka. I remember the first meeting. I think the first time I met her, it was in person. It wasn't over the phone.
Okay. And did that involve the disappearance of the child in Putnam County?
I can't remember exactly, but it was related to that.
Okay.
I do remember Ronald not in there. Ronald, her friend, was outside, and there was a little issue with that. But I remember it was the specter surrounding that, and that was it.
Okay. Now, moving forward from that time on to now, when did you first become aware that she was involved in these drug charges that she pled to?
Well, she shouldn't have been involved in them, but what happened was, I think when I was working with her on the Haleigh Cummings case, the plan was simply be good, lay low, just be good. Some things started happening. She was just kind of doing some things that were a little flashy. She seemed to be enjoying herself. Her and Ronald were just kind of running all over the place, and things were getting a little out of control. And I remember one time she she was getting on a plane with Donna Barak to go to New York. I called. I said, look, you can't be doing this. You got to tone it down. Whatever you're doing, stop. You've got a lot of scrutiny on you. There's a lot of people out there. There were people coming out of the woodwork trying to contact her, and it was weird. It was just everybody and their brother. So, you know, they were doing things, and the next thing I know, she was arrested. And I can't tell you exactly how. All I know is it was heading in that direction. It was sad.
And at that point, were you engaged to defend her on these charges?
Well, I felt obligated. She had no one else, and I'd been defending her against the world and kind of herself the whole time. I felt obligated to proceed forward.
Now, how many times did you meet with her concerning these charges, the ones that you led to the indictment of St. John's County?
It was quite a few. And if you count, well, what happened was I met with her a lot before, and I met with her a lot for substantial assistance with many detectives and state and the local and state agencies, morning, noon, late into the night. There were a lot of those meetings to work on substantial assistance.
And just so we all understand, what that substantial assistance was to aid law enforcement? Well,
what happened was Misty must have seen the videos. I think she saw the videos on TV from the jail.
Okay.
Either she called me or I met with her. I can't remember exactly what, but she was upset. You know, her statements were similar to, there's no way I can do this. That's crazy. She saw the videos. I mean, you know, the videos were ugly. With her, the undercover buy video, she was scared. And I can't give you verbatim what she told me on many occasions, was that, you know, I guess law enforcement had wanted to work with her on the Haleigh Cummings case. And my position was that these drug arrests were directly related to that. But, you know, you still can't go out and do stuff like that. So, anyway, she wanted to work with law enforcement. A lot of contacts were being made. It was easy. We met with law enforcement. We met with Putnam detective, St. John's detective, FDOE. We ate late night food. We were at the HIU till late. We were at the detective's office. We were at the jail. We met so many times. We discussed these cases. It was just very lengthy.
Okay. And when you're meeting for the substantial assistance, and I think you just touched on it, you also would it be fair to say that you're going through the facts of these cases? I mean, you knew it.
Well, what happened was we would meet, usually before the detectives would meet, we would talk, have a private talk. We would discuss pretty much everything that happened up until there. It was like, you know, oh my God, I can't believe I got into it. Are you mad at me? Yes, I'm mad at you, but I'll stay with you. The tone was, I know you're mad at me. I know I screwed up, but stay with me, please. And I did. You know, maybe like an idiot, but I did. I fought a lot of good advice to stay on this case. So we discussed it, and then the detectives would come in, and then sometimes the detectives would go out. We would stop. We would have a huddle. I mean, this was a lot, and again, this was during the day. I remember being at the HIU office till 11:30 one night. I remember
office here in St. Augustine?
Yeah, it is, and you know, it's and I remember, well, I don't want to go too far, but there was one particular time that really sticks in my memory, but whatever.
Okay. Now, you testify that you review the evidence, try to work with law enforcement. You're now at a point to where, or I want to take you to a point where you're discussing with the defendant her situation in the plea. When did that first occur?
I can't remember, but I can't remember exactly, but I can tell you, and I guess I need to color that for you. We had a situation where I was alluding to earlier at the HIU, the Homicide Investigative Unit. She had been pushing this story to me and to everyone else that Cousin Joe was involved in this whole long story. And I thought, wow, that's a great theory. It sounds plausible. These guys are investing a lot of time in these detectives. And we're in there. It's about 11 o'clock at night. We're in some room I've never seen before. I've never seen since. And all of a sudden, these guys are just talking to Misty, just kind of grilling her, and for the substantial assistance. Okay. And then she goes, I lied. About this Cousin Joe. So I was furious. They were furious. And it was just, I don't know how many weeks or months she was working on that. I was furious. Well, I'm getting there.
Well, was that when you say I lied in the story about Cousin Joe? Was he involved in the disappearance of the child, or the drug case? Well,
it was the It was the child.
Okay.
Your Honor, I can object. This is not relevant to the drug trafficking cases while we're here today.
Let's get to the point with the drug.
I'll get to the point. Can I continue, Judge?
No, let them ask questions.
Correct. And if you can hone in on when you really started to see that, discuss with the defendant about whether or not to plead to these cases, whether to go to trial.
Okay. Well, what happened was, at that point, law enforcement started to back off. They had enough. And so they were getting to the point where, look, we've given you all these chances. You've done this to us. We're at the point now where you're just going to have to plead or go to trial. I discussed with Misty many times, and again, whenever we met with law enforcement, that you were looking at, I can't tell you, maybe 100 years in prison if you added everything up. And that was scary. That was scary to her. So that's where we got to the point we really need to start taking this seriously, because law enforcement was not keeping that door open. So, anymore.
And what was the strategy when the defendant formed as far as pleading? What did you hope to or at least hope to attempt to do?
Well, we knew what we did. We got 25 years concurrent across the board, and that was the success. She wanted to get out. We discussed many times. I mean, Alaska and Montana still stick out in my head. We talked about her potentially having kids. You get to 25 years. Maybe with time off that, you'll be younger than your mother when you get out. You're going to be young enough to have kids, move away, and hopefully there's going to be some guy out there that's never heard of you. If he did, he's going to forgive you, and you can have a life. The 25 years was the ultimate prize. It was it. We got it. We got it before we went to court. So by that substantial assistance, now the officers, the detectives, maybe they felt sorry for her or whatever, but they or maybe the state attorney apologized, but the culmination was, we're not going to dogpile on you. We're not going to penalize you for asking for youthful offender. You get the 25 concurrent, and that was it. So at that point, we had already gotten what she agreed to, and she wanted to have, so she wouldn't spend the rest of her life in prison. That was it. Okay.
And her motion states that you promised her a 6-year youthful offender sentence.
That I promised you would get that?
Absolutely get it.
That's ridiculous.
Okay. Tell us what your discussions with her were about the possibility of a youthful offender sentence.
Well, it was a long shot. I mean, a lot of it was simply because she was mad. Well, the public and the tabloids in particular were vilifying her. I think a lot of people have seen that undercover video, and there were just rumors about the stuff they were doing out on their own. And I think even Hank had tried to get her to calm down at one point. But she wanted people to see what she was really like. So part of that youthful offender was kind of get her story out.
Okay.
But there was no promises made. I never did that. In my 16 years, I've never made a promise to a client like that, ever.
And why not?
You can't do it. You just can't. I mean, it's a night and day issue. You just don't do it.
Okay. But that was still a possibility that she could have been sentenced under that youthful offender, which would have reduced her incarceration.
I don't know if it was possible. I think we both realized it was not going to happen, but it was something we wanted to try to do. But again, the ultimate success was the 25 years. That, again, I don't understand why we're even here, because she got what she knew she was going to get, the 25 years.
And when we say the 25 years, and you earlier mentioned use the term dogpile, were you referring to the possibility of receiving the maximum sentence under these charges and having them stacked on top of each other?
Yes, I mean,
25 by 25 by 30.
It could have been a lot. It could have been, and again, I can't remember, it's been so long, upwards of 100 years consecutive. She would have never gotten out unless she took really good care of herself in prison.
Okay. And when you said you heard mentions of a family and moving back out west, those words were from Misty.
Well, those are conversations we had. It was just, you can go anywhere, and the message was go far away. And as a matter of fact, before the drug cases and all that took off, were around, I even advised her, and we discussed it. I said, Misty, you can get away from Ronald. You can get away from all this. There are no charges on you. Why don't you go to Europe? Why don't you get out of here? Mm-hmm. That was probably a year or 6 months. It was a long time before the drug charges. So we just talked about, that was a theme that we had, get away and start a new life. So.
My first witness, Earl.
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked, or we'll show you what's been marked as states A. Positive. Can you identify that packet, please?
These are a series of letters from Misty to me.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, nothing been identified in the evidence.
Mr. Marty, did you see them?
I have, Your Honor. I don't have any objection.
All right.
And just to be, sorry, Your Honor.
Your Honor, there's 4 in front of me.
Document is compiled.
Now, they say what they say, but would it be true of all 4 of those letters that there's not one mention of you lying to her, you misrepresenting anything to her in those letters?
Well, let me read them.
Okay, please do.
The first one I'm looking at, dated 11/4/2010, is a request for me to send a copy of her motion of the motion to discovery. Thank you for everything, Misty Croslin. So let me see. The second one is dated 11/21/2010. I'd like for you to give me all the paperwork that they filed, etc. Okay, I don't see anything there. I see on the one dated 7/10/11, it's kind of a compliment. I just want to thank you for everything you've done. It's a blessing. It means a lot. I don't want you to walk away from me. You've been here for me the whole time. I feel bad about whatever, but I don't see anything in that one.
Perfect.
And I see the last one dated 12/29/11. I don't see anything in that one as well, but it's more the same.
Okay, so with the sentencing being October 8, 2010, the first letter in the packet being November 2010 on through December 2011 would define when you received these, meaning after the sentence.
Well, she was in prison, so I would have gotten them in the mail after that.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Marty?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Sorry. Good morning, Mr. Fields.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Marty.
You said throughout your entire career you've handled roughly 100 criminal cases?
I'm sure it's been more than that, Mr. Marty, but right now there's no way I'm going to give you an exact number even close. So.
Well, no, I'm not asking you for an exact number.
Okay.
I don't think that's fair. It's just an approximate answer.
It's more than that, probably much more, because it's been a long time, but since it's not, I'm just going to give you, it's hundreds of cases. Yes, ma'am.
Have you been handling criminal cases since you began your career?
Yes, and I did some juvenile intern work in Fort Lauderdale when I was in law school.
Were you ever a prosecutor with the state attorney's office or the public defender's office?
I interned with the state attorney's office in Fort Lauderdale for maybe a semester or so.
Okay. But you never worked there as a prosecutor?
No, as a matter of fact, my dad did a lot of criminal defense, and there's no way I could do it. I just couldn't. I wouldn't even consider it.
You didn't like criminal defense?
I'm sorry. I thought you asked if I would work with a state attorney.
Well, I'm trying to ask if you had any prior criminal experience either as a prosecutor or public.
Oh, no. I graduated law school and went right into it.
How did you teach yourself how to do criminal law?
Well, how did I teach myself? I was prepared through law school, and my dad had been a practicing attorney since the 60s, handled a lot of cases, and he was my mentor until he died several years later.
Okay. Have you ever tried a murder case?
I have.
Are you death qualified?
I'm not death qualified.
Okay. Have you ever handled other drug trafficking cases?
Yes, I have.
Did you ever charge Ms. Croslin anything to represent her in either the case of the missing child or in the drug trafficking cases?
No, in the first case, there was nothing to really represent her on, other just keep her safe and keep her out of the limelight. And the second one, I just felt obligated, so I stayed on. So I never charged her.
But you testified that you spent a lot of time on these cases, correct?
Yeah, and mainly to get that substantial assistance.
Right, that you spent time meeting with detectives, with homicide detectives. You said that you're up at, I think meeting in the middle hours of the night kind of thing, that you spent a lot of time working on these cases, correct?
Yes, ma'am, and I don't think it was the middle hours, and I think the latest was maybe around 11:30, but we did a lot, and it was all to get that substantial assistance, which I think we did.
And that was the substantial assistance in the Haleigh Cummings case.
Well, that's what they wanted to talk to her about. They didn't want to talk about the drug case. It was all about Haleigh, and that was all about that.
Now, was she present for all those meetings?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't want to talk to me. I mean, I think I spoke to detectives every now and then about coordinating and setting up, but she may not have been involved in every single contact. I mean, you're talking 6 years ago.
Did she ever meet with law enforcement without you being present?
I think she did, and I think she did on her own volition. I'm sure, and it may have, if it was something administrative or minuscule, I may have authorized it on one occasion, but I think when she was arrested initially, maybe she met with them and waived my appearance. I was furious about that. I think I just can't remember everything. There may have been some times when I gave law enforcement permission to speak to her without going too far, but again, you're talking 6 years ago.
So you gave law enforcement permission to speak with her on a potential murder case without you being present?
It wasn't about a murder case. It was
about the disappearance of Haleigh Cummings.
No. She was arrested on a drug case. She was never arrested on the Haleigh Cummings case.
Well, I know that. That's correct. But I thought we were talking about, you said that they only wanted to talk about the disappearance of Haleigh Cummings.
Well, they wanted to talk about that. That was the main focus.
Right. And so you were comfortable letting her speak with law enforcement by herself about that, even though you represented her on that case? Well,
you asked me if I'd ever let her speak, and I'm doing the best to tell you that it's possible that I did, and it is possible. But it's also possible that I didn't. But I remember particularly that they did talk to her about certain things, and she wanted to, and so if she wanted to, as Misty does, she's going to do what she wants to do.
Okay, so if she wanted, your client, if she wanted to speak with you, or speak with law enforcement without you being present, you're okay with that?
Well, I wasn't okay with most of what she did, but how could I stop her?
Did they ever speak with her about the drug trafficking cases?
Well, when I was there?
Yes.
Yeah, it was always part of it. It was always part of look at what you're looking at. Your defenses are nothing. If you look at yourself in the video, you're having a pretty good time, and what were you thinking? So now let's talk about Haleigh.
Did you go over her discovery with her in the drug trafficking cases?
Of course I did.
Did you actually take her to the jail and go through the paperwork with her?
Well, first of all, I can't give you an actual repeat of what I did, but I was her attorney during that whole period. I met with her. I took her file in there with me. I took her file, took everything in there.
Did you give her copies of all the discovery?
I don't know if I gave her copies the whole way through, but I know after the case was over with, she requested and got copies. But we viewed everything. As a matter of fact, when I remember one particular time, I don't remember the date, she had already seen all the videos I think prior to me seeing them, and she was so scared. Her again, not verbatim, but her position was, my God, that is so bad. That is so bad. Let's get with these guys. Let's talk. Let me do what I can. And then a series of mistruths were perpetuated after that, and then at that point, law enforcement got tired of dealing with us. But luckily, we got the 25 years, so I don't know how we got that, but we did.
And you said that getting the 25 years as a global settlement you considered a big victory, correct?
Without a doubt, Mr. Marty.
And you said that you had talked to the prosecutors ahead of time, and you sort of had that tentative agreement that that's what it was going to be? I remember the prosecutors at one point telling us that they weren't going to seek the consecutive, and I thought that was a wonderful result. And was she happy with the 25 years? Well,
of course, Mr. Marty. We spoke about it. We spoke about her having a future. We spoke about her having a chance at a life. I mean, we had these discussions.
Okay. So if you had the prosecutors agreeing to 25 years and everybody was happy with it prior to entering the plea, then why didn't you announce it on the record as an agreed upon deal?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure when they said it, and it was an agreed upon deal.
But you said you had talked to them and they had agreed.
Mr. Marty, you asked me, and I told you I don't know when it was, but they said that they weren't going to seek consecutive. But they also said they weren't going to penalize us for seeking youthful offender. They weren't going to penalize us for doing anything.
But they wouldn't agree to it.
I'm sorry?
They wouldn't agree to it ahead of time.
They weren't going to agree to youthful offender. I mean, if...
No, I mean the 25 years.
I'm sorry?
They weren't going to agree to the 25 years prior to her entering her pleas?
I can't remember when they did it, Mr. Marty. You're talking 6 years ago. But Misty was happy with 25 years. I mean, she wanted no years. She wanted to solve this case, but unfortunately that didn't work. But if she would have gotten 25 years after we discussed it, that was something she could live with. Most definitely.
Because you did argue for a youthful offender sentence when she entered her plea in St. Johns County at sentencing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you ever tell her what the maximum was that she could get on all the charges?
Yes, I did. You have to. You have to tell them the maximums. You have to tell them
What that
everything.
was?
No, Mr. Marty, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was. I want to say it was around 100 years, but it was a lot. If you,
About 240 years.
I couldn't tell you. I can't even tell you if it was 5 or 6 years ago. If it was 2010, it's not quite 6 years ago. So.
Did you ever discuss with her about the mandatory minimums on the drug trafficking cases?
I had to, and of course I did. I mean, you have to do this for things. The mandatory minimums are what they are. They're mandatory minimums. It's like a stop sign. You go out driving every day, you know there's stop signs, and I had to discuss that with her.
Did you ever ask her if she understood what the term mandatory minimum meant?
I explained it to her on multiple occasions. She understood. We worked together as a team. She was on my team, I was on hers. That's what we do with our criminal defendants. That's what we do. That's my job. If I'm a plumber, I plumb. I tell my client, look, you got a leak. Let's fix this. I'm not going to just do it and say, here's the bill.
That's the program.
All right. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Field, be excused.
He has.
All right.
Is that from the courtroom? All right, thank you, Judge. So I'm free to leave the courtroom.
Your Honor, I'm going to recall Ms. Croslin.
You're free to leave.
All right, thank you. I've got this paperwork in front of me. Does anyone have this?
Just read this first, please. All right, you want to recall Ms. Croslin?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ms. Croslin, come back there, please. You just must have a seat. You saw her.
May I please with us, Your Honor?
You may.
Is this marked? Ms. Croslin, I'm giving you what's been marked as states Exhibit A, the composite exhibit. Can you tell me if you recognize those letters?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you recognize them?
I wrote him.
You wrote them to your attorney, Robert Fields?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the first one is dated November the 4th, 2010, and that would have been after you were sentenced in the St. John's case, correct?
Correct.
And what are you asking for in that letter?
My discovery.
Okay, and what do you interpret discovery to mean?
It's all the paperwork, like the video, the pictures of everything, this reports everything.
Okay, now why are you asking for it after you were sentenced?
Because I needed them to work on my case.
Okay. Did you have copies of it from before, where he gave you copies of it from before?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to direct your attention to the second letter, dated November 21st, 2010. And what are you asking for in that letter?
My paperwork, all the paperwork, my discovery, the paperwork that I got my appeal got denied, all the missing paperwork that was in that, the phone record, transcripts.
Okay. Can you tell me what you're asking for in the second paragraph there?
I want to know about getting this plea deal of 25 years in prison for to trial. I don't think this is a fair plea. I was asking you, I'm asking you, what would you give me advice on withdrawing my plea? Please get back to me soon.
Okay. And so by that you wanted to withdraw your plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the third letter on July 10th, 2011, what were you asking for in that letter?
didn't know what to do at that point. I'm just asking for help.
Okay. And you say at some point that basically you're happy with him, but do you mean that in the drug trafficking case or in his representation of you regarding the disappearance of Haleigh?
His representation about Haleigh Cummings.
And on the last letter on December 29, 2011, what are you asking for there?
Just pretty much for some advice of what to do.
You wanted to file a motion for post-conviction relief?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what would have been the purpose of that motion?
The purpose to try to fix this sentence.
To withdraw your plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further.
Any questions?
Madam Clerk, on the letters, what did you want that as an exhibit? No, okay, just for the record, I think the attorney says Exhibit A, so it'd be Exhibit 1.
Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carlson, you can go ahead. All right, Mr. Marty, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. France, anything else?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. As far as arguments, you wish to do that orally, wish to submit written?
Your Honor, we can submit written briefs.
All right. How much time do you need?
I can submit one to 10 days.
You want a longer period of time? I'm not trying to rush that, just trying to...
20 days, 30 days, that's fine.
All right. Mr. France, 30 days? You can do
Yes,
it?
sir.
Okay. All right, then each of you send a proposed order to both of us, if you would, within 30 days. But do not send copies to the other until after the date's passed, so let's set the date. I'll give you an exact date. But if you look at it down. What do you end up with? What day is it?
That would be Friday, April 8th.
All right. Friday, April 8th by noon. You can send copies to the other side on the following Monday. Do not file any responses to the other's submissions. Okay? I don't want to start a debate going back and forth. All right? Fine.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, Council?
That's all, Your Honor.
All right, then we'll be adjourned. Thank you. Court being recessed.
Should you go back to the ESP?
Yes, you can take that.
Let me excuse you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
No, what do you want?
Mr. Martin, do you need to see her before she gets back?
No, that's really good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Here's my copies.
Sure.
You run some of those.
I have time to run out in the hallway, come back and clean this up. Like it's not